Welcome back to another episode of the Corporate Cowboys podcast. As always, my name is Alex. I am your host. Today's proof of life, it's Monday, June 12, 2023. Folks, summer is right around the corner, and if you aren't working on bettering your mind, your body, your spirit, getting your shit right, man, you're fucking dropping the bag. You're fumbling. You're fumbling the bag in terms of corporate. If you're not familiar with the podcast, it's meant for professional development. We are here to cultivate a new generation of corporate cowboys that are capable of leading and supporting, right? Not just being led, not being followers, but capable of being leaders and collaborating in a support role if necessary. You have to know when to play a part sometimes. Join a team if you're not making one your own, right? So today's question, we'll treat this next half hour as a free consultation for you. And today's question is coming from r/career guidance, right? And they're asking, a job fired me and they want me back 2 months later. 2 months later, they're wanting me back. Should I do it? Why not? Why not? A job fired me, wants me back 2 months later. Should I do it? I mean, if you're just shooting from the hip, I would say yeah. If it comes with money, if it comes with respect, if you learned your lesson the first time and you're reading contracts and negotiating accordingly, right? You have to know what you're getting into. And I tell all my clients this. It's imperative that you read your contract, that you read your employment agreement. Yeah, motherfuckers want to say that, this is a standard form. This is a form we give everybody that we hire, and you can't negotiate on the terms. We won't give you $1 more than what we're offering you. No, we can't give you more vacation. They can, everything is fucking negotiable. Just about everything is negotiable. You'd be surprised the things you find in contracts when they're properly negotiated for. So let's read a little bit into the body of this question and find out if what they're asking is worthwhile, whether or not this offer, because we can assume here that if the company is reaching out to you 2 months later after they let you, after you separated, after you parted ways, right? They could have fired you, you could have left, you terminated, the employment was terminated. And they come back out to you 2 months later. I mean, there's got to be an offer. They've got to be offering you something to have seen something in you and want you back. Especially after firing you. What, are they fucking desperate? What, are they paying twice the amount? What, did they hear about your name through the grapevine? What, are you making moves? I mean, that's a nice position to be in. You, the one making moves, letting your name ring bells around town or in the industry, in the trade, in the profession, whatever field it is that you are conducting yourself in. You let business speak for itself. You take care of business, and I've said this in plenty of other episodes. You take care of business, and business will take care of you. And now it appears like it's circling back around and it wants you a second time. Biggie, give me one more chance. That's a Biggie song. Go look it up. A 90s rapper, Notorious B.I.G. So the title, job fired me, wants me back 2 months later. Should I do it? And they've flared this question for advice. So they want a little input. Now, let me give you a legal disclaimer. Anything you hear coming from this podcast, what we publish on our Instagram, which you can find at Corporate Cowboys with the Z. We're on Patreon also, the Corporate Cowboys podcast. You can donate, but I'll plug that later. Anything that we publish should not be construed as legal advice, right? This is very general. It's not tailored to you, the listener. If you haven't engaged us personally, if you haven't retained us personally as your consultant, as your advisor, as your representative or your agent, we don't owe you. And so you should not be relying on what we are, on this information, because it's very general. I'm sure you could research it on your own and compile this information, but lucky for you, you have learned professionals with some experience that you can listen to for free without having to pay an hourly rate. So, if the shoe fits, it's probably not perfect. So, it's probably not a perfect fit unless we tailor it for you. So you can't say gangsta rap made me do it just because you listen to it. All right, so they begin with, okay, so I have a weird work history. Right, don't we all? I was self-employed for around 10 years, right out of college until about 2 years ago. I started working as a temp, that's always nice, because I wanted to find something more social and stable. Hey, self-employment works as long as you are working, right? Unless what you do is profound, unless what you do is impactful to the extent that word of mouth is what drives business. You don't have to do any of the marketing yourself. The marketing gets done for you. People just know you by reputation. You cultivate a repertoire, and it precedes you everywhere you go. Oh, that motherfucker Alex? No, Alex puts in dumbass work. You want to work with him? And when he comes around, you better be sure to be available. You better be sure to look active, like you're capable. So, self-employment, entrepreneurship, I guess in that sense, it works so long as you are working, as long as you are investing in yourself, as long as you are investing in your craft, in your work. Your craft, your work, your professional image, your professional reputation will speak for itself and market itself. Success sells itself. Just like sex, drugs, rock and roll, hyperactivity is attractive. A motherfucker who was capable and competent, also highly attractive in professional settings, right? I mean, and that could bleed into personal and social settings, but we're talking business here, where business is war. So the company for my temp assignment really liked my work. So they offered me a permanent position. It wasn't in the same department, i.e. marketing, as I started out in, and I didn't have much, or you can read any, experience doing it. So I wasn't great at it. In any case, we got a new CEO and they wanted to restructure the company. They ended up laying off my boss and me. That's 8 months after I started. Okay, so 8 months after they start at this company as a temp, right? They're put into a position where it's apparent that they didn't have the knowledge or the training for it, right? Which could be an oversight, could be a fuck up on both parts. It could be a fuck up on this hypothetical client's part because They didn't know what the fuck they were walking into, but hey, you signed up to be a temp, so you're filling a position temporarily. You need to get with the program ASAP and learn what the fuck it is you need to do to get it done and not fumble the bag. But could also been a fuck up on the employer's side because they took on a temp who was inexperienced and untrained, nor did they train them with any of the practical knowledge or experience required to be successful, to be productive, to be innovative in that position. We don't know what position they got hired for as a temp, other than it being marketing. So we don't know exactly what they were doing, whether they were some type of technician or an analyst. Who knows? So they write, they ended up laying off my boss and me 8 months after I started. I could kind of see, they say, I could kind of see it coming for me, but I was completely and utterly shocked that they let my boss go too. He was also completely caught off guard as he'd worked there for 15 years. They just called him on Teams one morning and read a generic script to him. Damn, that sounds cold as fuck. When you put in over a decade of blood, sweat, and tears, I mean, we don't know how fucking hard they were working, right? For them to be disposable, like expendable like that, for the new CEO to come in and quote unquote right size the corporation and get rid of a motherfucker who's got 15 years of experience from one day to the next on the strength of a script is savage as fuck. And that's how you know corporate is cold. Corporate is relatively soulless only because the motherfuckers in corporate believe they can hide behind it. But even that fresh CEO is on the chopping block. And if they don't make moves, they might be the ones to go. Everyone, and I've said this just about every episode, but everyone in corporate is entry level forever. Everyone. You could have a job one day and not have it the next. Wake up one morning, you log on from, I don't know, your cushy pad, and you're working from home because at this point you're a director or a vice president of a division. And you find that the morning meeting with the other directors or the leadership team is just you, the CEO, human resources, and maybe a lawyer. And they're like, Alex, we want to thank you for your 15 years of service while you've worked with us and watched the company grow. And we've been fortunate also to watch your career blossom. Like they always say some shit like that, as if you haven't been in the trenches together, as if you don't know where the bodies are buried. And they're like, Alex, we just want to wish you the best of luck on your future success and your career to come. And that's it. They clip you out the picture. You're gone. You're done. What are your options from there, right? I mean, this hypothetical client isn't that manager who got let go. Who we're talking to is their subordinate, right? So who's to say that older 15 years experience person couldn't pivot on their toe and just, do it move on to the competition, or maybe they were falling behind. Maybe they were fucking lagging it because they weren't keeping up with technology as it was being rolled out. They weren't keeping up with innovations as they could have been integrated. Who the fuck knows, right? Maybe they might not even be with us anymore. But they continue here and they write, it was fucked up. They just called him on Teams was one morning. They just called him on Teams one morning and read a generic script to him. It was fucked up, they write. And I was really upset for him because it seemed like he was just trying to keep things afloat in a company that had just broken off from a larger company and had been mismanaged for a long time. It really wasn't his fault, you know? That's what they write. It really wasn't his fault, you know? Hey, I get it. I understand. I've been in exactly, I'm not going to say exactly, but I've been in a relatively, in a substantially similar situation in the past where I was working for a corporation and I was a middle manager. And this was during a time when there was a scheme, a promotion scheme taking place above my pay grade, right? Above my pay grade when these motherfuckers went from hourly to salary. In that anybody, or in that the salary employees, they had an incentive. They had some type of promotion incentive where anybody that they trained and promoted, the salaried employee would receive a kickback depending on what type of position that they had promoted. And they ranged from anywhere to anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, and I believe even $10,000, right? Because these were very important positions to be cultivating in this company, in this corporation. And me, I was a lower end middle manager. I was on my way up, and I already knew how the motion of the ocean was going. I mean, I was getting my ducks together and putting them all in a row, learning how to, go with the flow, ride the wave. And I did a little too much too soon. You learn from experience. And I was a young cat. I was maybe 19, 20. I was about 20. And at that time, I was right in the middle of this promotion scheme where I was about to begin my own ascension, and they cracked down. Corporate came down and cracked down on everyone who had been doing the promoting. They fired up a bunch of motherfuckers. They sparked like all of middle corporate, and then hired on a bunch of new cats from outside, and promoted, people from inside up into those corporate positions. Why? Because, and I'll tell you why. These corporate managers were promoting just for the sake of the incentive, just on the strength of the incentive. The 1,000, the 5,000, the 10,000. That was a sweet hook to just have them write off and say that, yeah, they're, let's pretend me. Yeah, this motherfucker Alex is ready to become a general manager, fucking some type of section manager. And they'd never fucking trained me. They never supervised me. They never developed me. So there was never any progress. Like, I never received the performance review. Just show up one day and they're like, hey, Alex, you want to be a general manager? And I'm like, what's the pay? Well, we'll give you, I don't know, some fucking nominal amount, really small, just a bullshit amount. We'll give you $1 extra an hour. Mind you, I was still hourly at the time, right? We'll give you $1 extra. And for me, young Alex, 20 years old, hungry like a motherfucker, $1 was like gold, would be like gold, right? I'm like, yeah, let me get another $1, man. And I get a title, sick. But I go in there with no training, They set me up essentially to fail if I'm not learning to tread water and make moves, take strokes by myself, or make the strokes. Yeah, I mean, I guess when you're swimming, it's a swim stroke, right? You're not learning to stroke by yourself. You're either treading water or you're fucking sinking, right? Because this corporation, it was a very popular company, very popular corporation, and it could essentially run on the strength of its name. You know, and they were really hyped about all organic, non-GMO food, Tex-Mex grill. Go look it up. I'm sure you know what it is by now. And so corporate cracked down on all these unfounded promotions. And when it came to it, they realized that Alex wasn't promoted by incentive. I mean, me, myself, I took it upon myself to learn what was required to get promoted. I went through the instruction manuals, all of like the service and the management handbooks to get the knowledge in line so that I could apply it in a very practical manner, so that not only my colleagues could see that I was a top performer, but that the customers could also recognize that I was about that life, that I was the one who was keeping the shit together, right? So I essentially became the life of the party, and that is a lot of responsibility for a young cat to take on. But you know, every now and then you meet somebody who's about their business, or who has external drivers. And I'm telling you, I was getting down and dirty, so I had some external motivators that required me to keep a gainful employment. And I figured that while I'm keeping this gainful employment, why the fuck wouldn't I move up? Man, I'm telling you, when Alex was on fire, Alex was just sparking motherfuckers left and right. What a tangent. All right. The hypothetical client continues here. They say that it really wasn't his fault. You know, the point of the story was that I got let go later on because I was making moves. I was rocking the boat. I reinitiated a whole bunch of like development programs to train, to cultivate and promote future managers. And I was teaching them. I was just telling them straight up, like, yo, dog, you gotta be a motherfucking hustler. Like, you want to make more than I make, homie. Like, I'm just setting the foundation for you. So when it comes time for you to get promoted, you make more money and you can negotiate how much you're worth because you know more. Like, and it's true that, sure, a lot of the generals, many generals, I'm gonna say a lot of generals, right? I'm not gonna make it a statistic, but a lot of generals, they start at the bottom in the trenches and they move up, and they're deserving of their title and their position. But some generals, some officers forget what the trenches are like, or don't keep up with what the trenches are like. So it could easily be like this 15-year experienced motherfucker who just forgets what the world looks like, who forgets what the world operates like, who's not keeping abreast of news and change. So they're necessarily dragging down the company by not staying on top of their own game, right? So if you come to find out that motherfuckers up in corporate, they don't want like this new generation, like the new cats, to move with creativity, to move with hustle and flow. They just want order takers. They just want executioners. They just want motherfuckers who will do what they're told and not think a second longer. But that wasn't me. That wasn't Alex. And the people that I was hiring on and interviewing and filling up, my crew with, my team with, motherfuckers who thought like me. And I was having fun. I was having fun doing it. So when it came time, they caught me slipping on one tiny mistake, a tiny mistake, and they let my ass go. They let my ass go. Because in that time, corporate was coming to crack down on just policies and internal practices. They were like, you know what? We stopped giving warnings. We're going to stop giving warnings. No more writtens. No more orals. We're just going to fire motherfuckers on the spot. We're just going to let them go. We're going to terminate them without warning. We don't deal with errors. And our store was our division, our store, right, was turning around, and we were turning a nice profit. Obviously, we weren't seeing anything of it yet because I was the first of my kind. I would have negotiated for something way larger. I was being groomed. I was getting trained, not necessarily directly trained, but I pulled down the manuals to become a general manager. I was gonna skip assistant. Fuck being an assistant manager, homie. I'm making moves. And yeah, I mean, they caught me slipping on one of these, and because I had negotiated to be where I was then, I was starting something. They wanted to end it before it took off, which really is just the negotiating portion of it. Yeah, maybe they want motherfuckers to pick up the books and read them, but how many motherfuckers do you really know are going to actually pick up the books and want to consume them? Not many, not many. Sure, everybody wants to get paid more, but I want to get paid more and be able to justify it. I'm not just going to show up and be like, oh, but I got bills. I deserve $15 an hour. Nah, homie. I was pulling the books down, and I was challenging the fact that they wanted to give me only an extra dollar. No, I'm like, no, give me 3 more, give me 5 more, because I'm worth it, and I know what to do to make the operation run smoothly. And so because I did that, I got under this motherfucker's skin. I got under the corporate manager's skin, and they were like, oh, we've never paid anybody like you, so we expect a return on investment. This motherfucker, yeah. The first chance they got, they ended me right there. The first chance, and it was on something petty. But I mean, all the programs that I started, I don't even know if they kept them going. But when I went back, they said that they had fallen back into old practices. Nobody was negotiating. Everybody was just given their promotion. Everybody was just given their raise. Nobody was getting trained. You love to see it, but you hate to see it. You love to see it that you were right, but you hate that it was in the worst way possible. And that's happened a couple of times in my career. When you're a corporate cowboy and you're thinking outside of the box, when you are a goon motherfucker, when you are standing outside of the box in a ski mask and gloves staring in, yeah, it sucks when you're right in the worst way possible. I mean, it's a bittersweet feeling. So they're right here. Anyway, I was pretty torn up about it, right? So this 15-year experienced vet was let go, and our hypothetical client is feeling some type of way about it. So they write, anyway, I was pretty torn up about it. It was a really huge emotional event for me, and my resume looks weird as fuck now, since I technically only worked at this place for 8 to 10 months, depending on what. Anyways, and in this job market, that's really not helping me. However, my original boss in the marketing department was promoted recently, and he contacted me about a job. The pay is like $100K, which is a lot more than I was being paid before. It's entirely remote because I moved after I was let go. I had to be good at it, and I really like him as a boss. He's great to work with. I don't see any red flags yet. However, as you might imagine, I'm not exactly crazy about the company's management at this point. I'm worried that it'll be awkward or that they'll randomly decide to fire me again. Oh, it's the same company? I thought the old boss got picked up somewhere else and got promoted. Hold on. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. However, my original boss in the marketing department was promoted recently. My original boss? Scrolling up a little bit, I thought their boss was the one who got fired, the one with 15 years experience. Did they get picked back up too? Did they get rehired and promoted? You know, maybe the right sizing of the company was the appropriate way to go about it. Granted, sometimes CEOs just pull moves out of their ass that they haven't completely thought through. So when they make a mistake, they would much rather not admit they did it and just rehire you on with, 10 extra grand on your salary. That has happened before. But when it does occur, it's like you got a raise without asking for it, right? It can happen. I tend not to take it personal, but you do have to recognize that business is war. Business is always personal, and so that makes war a personal item, right? You have to recognize that the CEO was also incompetent. If they couldn't compartmentalize the issues that were taking place inside of the corporation and resolve them in a way that doesn't require all this fucking churn and turnover in personnel, I mean, you do have to question their competency as a leader and a strategist, a tactician. That calls into question whether or not they're capable of looking out for your interests, just like you would be looking out for their interests while you work for them, right? It all comes into play, but that's more higher level thinking. And typically what a lot of our clients want is they just want a second perspective from a corporate Cowboys point of view as to how to proceed in a situation like this. So they say, however, as you might imagine, I'm not exactly crazy about the company's management at this point. I'm worried that it'll be awkward or that they'll randomly decide to fire me again. I don't want to be paranoid or hold a grudge against anyone because I want the job, but it's difficult. What do I do? I think I pretty much made that answer. I pretty much answered that question by saying, I don't see a red flag besides you returning to the same company and they fired you once, right? They laid you off. They didn't necessarily terminate you for cause by saying, Alex, you're a piece of fucking shit. We never want to see you again because, they caught me stealing Staples or some Post-it notes or some shit, right? If they caught me being a fucking rat, then they would have reason to fire me and say, Alex, if we see you again on the street, shit's on sight. But it doesn't appear to be the case in your situation. They let you go, they laid you off. 2 months later, they reach back out and they say, hey, your old boss actually reaches back out and says, hey, I remember you. They remembered you, your work ethic, your work product. And that's what they want on their team. You should feel blessed. But always remember, you want to go in, read before you sign, because this is, frankly, a new corporation. When it changes hands and it changes management, you don't know what other internal policies and practices changed up in the time that you were gone. So you still want to be on your toes. You want to be looking out for yourself, running and gunning, shooting from the hip. And that all comes with experience. You can find us, again, online, on Patreon, anywhere really podcasts are broadcasted. And you can donate. There's a couple donation links, and write to us also. That's P.O. Box 3372, Rancho Cordova, California, 95741. Take care of yourselves. Catch you next time.